This is a bike. Wait, before you start replying in the comments, Alice, you're wrong. Bear with me. Okay, the most eager among you will have noticed that this is in fact not a bike. At least not yet.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
These are wheels. Wheels are great. They go around and around and have helped humanity go from this to this. I could have used another image. Something more like a futuristic city filled with super duper electric cars. But come on, trophy trucks are really cool.
Hell yeah, brother.
Before making a bike, we need to understand wheels. Bicycle wheels come in various shapes and sizes, but they are mostly composed of a tire. These are, accounting for good brakes and good suspension, arguably the most important choice you can make in order to unlock ultimate riding performance.
Yeah.
Tires connect you and your bicycle to the ground. Rims. They make sure your tires are tightly secured.
Nice.
And transmit your grip through your spokes into your hubs. There are a ton of wheel sizes and designs, material, spoke count, rim shape, spoke glazing pattern, but this would take me a long time to discuss in detail, and it is not the point of this video. So I'm going to ignore it altogether. In summary, light wheels that are stiff and strong enough for the application are always the best choice. The lighter they are, the easier they are to accelerate and decelerate. And for mountain bikes, this means suspension will work better,
Yeah, boy.
smoother, and the bike will be easier to lean. Your wheels are connected to the frame and forks via the axles. These guys. As with most things, the bigger, the better. I mean, more diameter is good? Okay, Jesus. It's just stiffer, okay? Get a bicycle with small axles and it will flex more when riding hard. For a city bike that Aunt Dorothy uses to go from her house to the grocery store, these are fine.
Hooray!
But hold on. We are making a mountain bike here. We need a stiff connection between both the front fork legs and the swing arm arms. These days, 15mm by 110mm are the norm for front fork axles. It is a good compromise between stiffness and weight. But if you want a truly stiff front end, 20mm axles are the way to go. Most downhill racing bikes use this axle standard and works perfectly fine. Well, back to the drawing board. Let's get nerdy. These two wheels are lonely. This long distance relationship has to end. We need to connect them. In order to do so, we need front forks. They will help us locate our head tube via the axle to crown measurement and offset. Axle to crown distance, as the name suggests, goes from the axle parallel to the steering axis until reaching the crown where the steering column starts. Front forks offset is basically how far or close your front axle is to the steering axis using a perpendicular line. Okay, I think it is important to point out that all the geometry measurements we are using are always in a dry condition. This means with all the suspension fully extended and no weight on the bike. Most manufacturers give you the geometry chart with the bike in this state. So always take it with a grain of salt, since once the bike receives the weight of the fully kitted rider, these numbers will change. Sometimes so drastically so, that the bike could ride totally different than you would have anticipated just by reading the chart given by the manufacturer. When designing a bike, we can plot three scenarios. when Uncle Joe is pedaling up the hill, this means sitting and pedaling comfortably. Then, when Uncle Joe decides it's time to let hell loose down the cliff of a mountain. Lastly, a try condition with no rider. We can use this as our manufacturing geometry, with which we will later transfer to our fixtures or tooling. Alright, so we now know our fork measurements. Some of you might know, rake angle has a big impact on how a bike feels. Put a massive amount of rake angle and your bike will be stable, but also it will only want to go on a straight line. Not great if you want to dodge trees at 70 kilometers an hour. Too little, and the bike will feel more agile, like a ninja, but will scare you to death when blasting full speed down the mountain. It is important to point out that mountain bikes, specifically downhill bikes, are usually aggressively pointed down. This means that too little of a rake angle will turn you from confident Alice to over the bars Alice real quick. As with all things in life, compromises have to be made. 63° is a good start for any gravity-oriented bike. Okay, here's a front wheel scenario. This is our steering axis, our front forks offset, our wheel outside diameter. This is a 27.5 by 2.5 wheel. This line is the center of the contact patch of our wheel. This is the length of the self-centering torque arm. You can see it. You can see that if we decrease the rake angle, our torque arm gets smaller. This means instability. It will be easier to turn, but at high speeds, it will be unstable. If we go the opposite direction, you can see that the length of the self-centering torque arm increases. This means it will be harder for us to turn the bars, but we will have good stability at high speed or when encountering bumps, because the bike will be more resistant to be deflected. But, as we know, bicycles are a dynamic system. This means that whenever an impact comes and changes the contact patch from its center point to wherever it is in front, our trail will change. If the trail goes from positive to negative, that's when our wheel will be deflected and instability will happen. For downhill bikes, a 63° angle is a good compromise. In the walk-up circuits, they are going even less, but for our purposes, this will work perfectly. Also, you can see that by changing our offset, people would think that by a longer offset, it means more stability. Let's check this out. Oh, we've increased the wheelbase of the bike, but we've decreased the real trail. This means that by making the bike longer, we are getting more instability. Just changing the offset of the fork. But using a shorter offset, we gain stability. Well, that's it for today. Thank you guys, and see you on the next video. Stay tuned and don't forget to subscribe.